They called her the weakest species in the galaxy. Humans, soft, fragile, short-lived creatures who barely survived their own planet's harsh conditions. When the Galactic Combat Academy received its first human applicant, the alien instructors laughed. When they saw it was a small human female, they nearly collapsed from amusement. But Maya Chen had a secret that would shake the foundations of interstellar warfare. While every alien species had evolved to master one combat discipline, the Korthax with their brutal strength, the Zephyrians with their lightning speed, the Mentari with their psychic warfare, humans had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had mastered them all. What the galaxy didn't understand was that humans weren't specialists. They were adapters, survivors. And Maya Chen was about to prove that sometimes the greatest weapon isn't the strongest or fastest, it's the one nobody sees coming. This is the story of how the weakest girl in the academy became the most feared warrior in known space, and how humanity's greatest strength was hidden in plain sight all along. The transport shuttle shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Nexus Prime, home to the most prestigious military academy in the known galaxy. Maya Chen pressed her face against the small porthole, watching as massive spires of crystalline architecture pierced the purple clouds below. Each tower represented one of the 12 major species that made up the Galactic Coalition, their designs as different as the beings who built them. Maya's stomach churned, and not from the turbulence. In less than an hour, she would become the first human to set foot in the Galactic Combat Academy. The weight of representing her entire species pressed down on her shoulders like a lead blanket. "Attention passengers," the ship's AI announced in perfect standard galactic, "we are beginning our final approach to Nexus Prime. All beings should prepare for disembarkation." Maya gathered her belongings, a single duffel bag containing everything she owned. The other passengers, all heading to various civilian sectors of the planet, gave her curious glances. Her human appearance marked her as an oddity, but they had no idea she was destined for the academy. If they did, they would probably laugh just as hard as everyone else had. The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper on the landing pad. Maya took a deep breath, tasting the strange metallic tang of recycled air mixed with alien atmospheric processors. This was it. No turning back now. The Academy's recruitment officer was waiting for her at the gate. Commander Thexela was a Korthax, 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, with arms thick as tree trunks. His species had evolved on a world where everything tried to kill everything else, and it showed. When he saw Maya approaching, his mandibles clicked in what she had learned was the Korthax equivalent of suppressed laughter. "So," his voice rumbled like distant thunder, "you are the human who thinks she can survive our academy." Maya straightened her spine, meeting his 4 eyes with steady determination. "I am Maya Chen, sir, reporting for admission to the Galactic Combat Academy." Commander Thexela's armor plates shifted as he leaned down to examine her more closely. "Tell me, little soft-skin, what combat discipline does your species excel in? The Korthax dominate in strength-based warfare. The Zephyrians rule the speed disciplines. The Mentari are unmatched in psychic combat. The Crystalline Collective masters defensive techniques. What is humanity's specialty?" Maya had practiced this answer 1,000 times during her journey through space. "We adapt, sir." The clicking of mandibles grew louder. "Adapt?" Commander Thexela's voice carried clear amusement. "That is not a combat discipline, young human. That is what prey does when cornered." "With respect, sir," Maya replied, her voice steady despite the fire building in her chest, "adaptation is exactly what predators do when they want to hunt everything." Then Commander Thexela's clicking stopped abruptly. He studied her with new interest, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Interesting," he rumbled. "Very well, Maya Chen of humanity. You will be assigned to Dormitory 7 with the other unique cases. Your first evaluation begins at dawn tomorrow. Try not to die on your first day. The journey to Dormitory 7 took them through the heart of the academy grounds. Maya marveled at the training facilities as they passed. Massive arenas designed for different types of combat, anti-gravity chambers where Zephyrians practiced their aerial maneuvers, and reinforced bunkers where Korthax students could unleash their full strength without destroying everything around them. Each species trains in their specialized combat form, Commander Thexla explained as they walked. The Korthax focus on overwhelming force. The Zephyrians master speed and precision. The Mentari develop their psychic abilities. The Void Dancers practice stealth and assassination techniques. The Elementals manipulate energy and matter. Every species has found their niche in galactic warfare. And humans? Maya asked. That remains to be seen. Dormitory 7 turned out to be exactly what Maya expected. The Reject Building. It housed the Academy's oddballs, the species who didn't fit neatly into established combat categories, and apparently now, humans. Her roommate was a creature called a Fluxian, a being that looked like liquid metal given semi-solid form. Oh, wonderful! The Fluxian gurgled as Maya entered their shared room, another so-called warrior species that probably specializes in running away. Maya set down her duffel bag on the unoccupied bed. I'm Maya. And you are? Disappointed, the Fluxian replied, its metallic surface rippling with what might have been irritation. I am designated Flux 779, but you can call me disappointed that they keep putting failures in here with me. Maybe we're all here because we're not failures, Maya suggested. Maybe we're here because we don't fit their narrow definitions of what combat should look like. Flux 79's form solidified slightly as it turned to examine Maya more closely. Humans have been observed, little biped. Your species is soft, slow, weak, and short-lived. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. What exactly do you bring to combat? Maya unpacked her few belongings considering the question. It was the same one she'd been asked by every alien she'd encountered on her journey to the academy. The same question she'd been asking herself since she first applied. Experience, she finally answered. Experience? Flux 79's voice carried the same amusement Maya had heard from Commander Thexla. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years, Maya explained. We've had to learn every type of combat because we never knew what we'd face next. We fought with strength, speed, stealth, strategy, technology, and pure stubborn determination. We've survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and our own stupidity. We're generalists because we had to be. The Fluxian was quiet for a long moment. And you think this makes you warrior material? Maya looked out the window at the training grounds below, where various alien species were practicing their specialized combat forms. Each one was impressive in its own way, but they were all predictable. Each species fought the same way their biology dictated. I think it makes me unpredictable, Maya said. And in combat, unpredictable is often more dangerous than strong or fast. That night, Maya lay in her narrow bed listening to the sounds of the academy around her. From the strength training facilities came the thunderous impacts of Korthax students testing their limits. From the aerial practice areas came the supersonic booms of Zephyrians pushing their speed boundaries. From the psychic development centers came the subtle energy discharges of Mentari students expanding their mental capabilities. But from Dormitory 7 came only silence. Maya closed her eyes and began her own preparation routine. Not the specialized training of a single combat discipline, but something far more comprehensive. She mentally rehearsed techniques her grandfather had taught her from his time in Earth's military conflicts. She visualized the martial arts forms she'd learned from masters around the world. She reviewed the strategic principles she'd studied from humanity's greatest military minds. Tomorrow, she would face her first evaluation. The Academy instructors expected her to fail, to prove that humans were too weak and pathetic to contribute to galactic warfare. They expected her to attempt some specific combat discipline and fail miserably at it. Maya smiled in the darkness. Let them expect that. Let them prepare for a human who would try to compete with aliens at their own specialties. Let them get ready to watch her fail at being something she was never meant to be, because Maya Chen wasn't going to try to outstrength a Korthax or outspeed a Zephyrian or outthink a Mentari. She was going to do something far more dangerous. She was going to be human. The evaluation would test her in multiple combat scenarios, each designed to highlight the advantages of different alien combat disciplines. The instructors would watch her fail at each one, confirming their beliefs about human limitations. But what they wouldn't expect was for her to succeed at all of them, not by being the best at any single discipline, but by being good enough at everything to adapt to whatever situation she faced. As sleep finally took her, Maya's last conscious thought was of her grandfather's words, spoken to her the day she left Earth. Maya, remember, we humans don't win because we're the strongest or fastest or smartest. We win because when everyone else has specialized themselves into corners, we're still standing in the middle of the room, ready for whatever comes next. Tomorrow, the Galactic Combat Academy would get its first real look at what humanity brought to the table, and Maya Chen was going to make sure they never forgot it. Dawn on Nexus Prime painted the sky in shades of amber and violet. Maya woke before her alarm, her body already adjusted to the planet's slightly longer day cycle. Flux 779 was still in its rest state, looking like a puddle of mercury on the opposite bed. The evaluation chamber was located in the Academy's central spire, a massive structure that housed the most advanced combat simulation technology in the galaxy. Maya joined a line of other first-year students outside the entrance, beings from a dozen different worlds, each confident in their species' combat superiority. "Look," one of them whispered, "a Zephyrian whose natural speed made her appear to vibrate slightly even while standing still. They actually let the human try. This should be entertaining." Maya ignored the comments. She'd heard variations of them all her life. Instead, she focused on observing her fellow students. The Korthax students moved with the deliberate heaviness of living siege engines. The Zephyrians seemed to exist in a constant state of barely contained motion. The Mentari students' eyes glowed faintly as they unconsciously probed the surface thoughts of those around them. Each species was already demonstrating their specialization without conscious effort. It was built into their biology, their instincts, their very way of existing in the world. "Candidate Chen," Commander Texla's voice boomed across the waiting area. "You're first." A ripple of amusement went through the assembled students. Starting with the presumed weakest was clearly meant as either mercy or entertainment. Get the failure out of the way early. Maya followed Commander Texla into the evaluation chamber, a vast spherical room lined with holographic projectors and sensor arrays. The walls could become anything: alien landscapes, urban environments, the deck of a starship, the depths of space itself. "The evaluation consists of 5 scenarios," Commander Texla explained, his 4 eyes never leaving Maya's face. "Each is designed to test different aspects of combat capability. You will face challenges that require strength, speed, stealth, strategy, and adaptability. Most candidates excel in 1 or 2 areas and fail the others. This is expected and acceptable." Maya nodded. "Understood, sir. Your first scenario begins now." The chamber transformed around them. Maya found herself standing in what appeared to be a Korthax battle arena, a circular pit surrounded by jagged metal walls designed to test pure combat strength. Across from her, a holographic opponent materialized, a massive Korthax warrior in full battle gear, easily twice her size. The alien students watching through the observation windows leaned forward with interest. This was exactly what they expected to see, a tiny human about to be demolished by a strength-based combat challenge. The holographic Korthax charged. Maya didn't try to match its strength or stand her ground like a Korthax would. Instead, she dropped low and rolled sideways, using the creature's momentum against it. As it thundered past her, she grabbed one of the loose metal fragments from the arena floor and hurled it at the Korthax's knee joint. Not to damage it, but to throw off its balance at a crucial moment. The Korthax stumbled, and Maya was already moving. She climbed onto its back, using its own armor as handholds, wrapped her arms around its thick neck, and applied pressure to specific points her grandfather had taught her, not trying to overpower the creature, but finding the exact spots where even a small amount of force could disrupt blood flow. The holographic Korthax collapsed. Silence filled the observation area. Scenario 1 complete, the Academy's AI announced. Time, 47 seconds. Candidate Chen advances to Scenario 2. The arena dissolved, replaced by a three-dimensional maze of mirrors and platforms suspended in mid-air. This was a Zephyrian speed course, designed to test reflexes and velocity. A timer appeared in Maya's vision. She had 30 seconds to reach the far end of the course before energy barriers activated and made passage impossible. The watching Zephyrian students relaxed slightly. There was no way a slow human could complete a speed course designed for beings who could move faster than most projectiles. Maya looked at the course for exactly 3 seconds, mapping out not the fastest route, but the most efficient one. Then she began to run. But she didn't run like a Zephyrian trying to power through with pure speed. Instead, she used every surface available. She bounced off walls, grabbed hanging cables, used her momentum to swing around obstacles. Whereas Zephyrian would have tried to outrun the course, Maya flowed through it like water finding its way downhill. She reached the end with 2 seconds to spare. Scenario 2 complete, the AI announced. Time, 28 seconds. Candidate Chen advances to Scenario 3. Now the murmur from the observation deck was less amused and more confused. 2 scenarios. 2 completely different approaches. 2 successes. This wasn't how evaluations usually went. The third scenario materialized as a darkened space station corridor filled with hiding spots and sensor shadows. This was a Void Dancer stealth challenge. Maya had to reach a target at the far end without being detected by roving security drones. The Void Dancer students in the observation area leaned forward with professional interest. Stealth was their specialty, evolved over millennia on worlds where the slightest sound or movement could mean death. Surely a human couldn't match their natural abilities. Maya studied the patrol patterns of the security drones for a full minute before moving. When she did move, it wasn't with the flowing, almost liquid stealth of a Void Dancer. Instead, she moved in short bursts, using the drone's sensor limitations against them. She created diversions by throwing small objects to draw their attention away from her path. She used the station's own systems against it, triggering minor malfunctions that masked her movements. When she reached the target, she had never been detected once. Scenario 3 complete, the AI announced. Detection rating, 0. Candidate Chen advances to Scenario 4. The observation deck was no longer filled with amusement. Now there was genuine attention, and beneath that the first stirrings of something that might have been concern. The fourth scenario was a tactical simulation, a holographic battlefield where Maya commanded a mixed unit of different alien troops against a superior enemy force. This was designed to test strategic thinking, the kind of deep analytical capability that species like the cerebrals had evolved over millions of years. Maya looked at the battlefield, assessed her forces, and did something completely unexpected. Instead of trying to win through superior strategy, she did something no purely logical species would consider. She cheated. Not actual cheating, but she used tactics that bent the rules of engagement in ways that technically weren't violations, but definitely weren't what the scenario designers had in mind. She used her own troops as bait, sacrificing holographic soldiers to lure the enemy into traps. She exploited glitches in the enemy AI by doing things that were technically possible but so unlikely that the program hadn't been designed to handle them. Most importantly, she won by doing things that made no sense from a purely rational standpoint, but worked because they were so unexpected that the enemy couldn't adapt in time. Scenario 4 complete, the AI announced. Victory achieved in 14 minutes, 37 seconds. Enemy forces eliminated with minimal friendly casualties. Candidate Chen advances to Scenario 5. Commander Thexla's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. His four eyes were fixed on Maya with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The final scenario was the most challenging, a free-form combat situation where Maya would face multiple opponents using different combat styles simultaneously. It was designed to test adaptability under pressure, the ability to switch between different approaches as the situation demanded. Maya found herself in a mixed environment, part urban landscape, part natural terrain, part technological facility. Her opponents were holograms representing each major species' combat specialty: a Korthax for strength, a Zephyrian for speed, a Mentari for psychic warfare, a Void Dancer for stealth, and an Elemental for energy manipulation. They attacked simultaneously. Maya did something that stunned everyone watching. She didn't specialize. She didn't try to match any of them at their own game. Instead, she flowed from technique to technique, fighting style to fighting style, as the situation demanded. Against the Korthax, she used speed and agility. Against the Zephyrian, she used strength and leverage. Against the Mentari, she used mental discipline techniques that blocked psychic intrusion. Against the Void Dancer, she used environmental awareness and unpredictable movement patterns. Against the Elemental, she used technology and strategy. But more than that, she used them against each other. She maneuvered the Korthax into the Zephyrian's path. She used the Mentari's psychic attacks to interfere with the Void Dancer's stealth. She turned the Elemental's energy attacks into weapons against its allies. One by one, they fell. Scenario 5 complete, the AI announced. All opponents neutralized. Time, 6 minutes, 12 seconds. No injuries sustained by Candidate Chen. The observation deck was completely silent. Maya stood in the center of the evaluation chamber, breathing hard but uninjured. Around her, the holographic opponents had dissolved, leaving only empty air and the soft hum of the chamber's systems. Commander Thexla entered the chamber, his massive form moving more slowly than usual. He approached Maya and studied her for a long moment. In 300 years of Academy operation, he said finally, no candidate has ever achieved a perfect score on the initial evaluation. Maya straightened. Sir, perfect adaptation to each scenario, perfect utilization of available resources, perfect tactical flexibility. His mandibles clicked once, slowly. Tell me, Maya Chen, how did you prepare for this evaluation? Maya considered the question carefully. I studied every combat discipline I could find records of, sir, not to master any of them, but to understand their principles. I learned what each species considers their strength, and I learned what they consider impossible. And then I did what humans have always done, sir. I learned to use everything. Commander Thexla's four eyes narrowed. Everything? Every technique, every principle, every advantage I could find. Humans don't have natural weapons or armor or special abilities. We have something else, which is Maya looked out through the observation window at the assembled alien students, all of whom were staring at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. We learn, sir. We adapt. We take the best of everything we encounter and make it ours. Every other species in the galaxy has found their perfect niche, their ideal combat form. They've specialized so completely that they can't imagine fighting any other way. She turned back to Commander Thexila. Humans never found our niche, sir, so we learned to fight in all of them. The commander was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice carried a tone Maya hadn't heard from him before. Something that might have been respect. Report to advanced combat training tomorrow at 0600 hours, he said. It seems we have a great deal to learn from each other. As Maya left the evaluation chamber, she could feel the eyes of every alien student following her. The amusement was gone. The dismissiveness was gone. In their place was something she recognized from her grandfather's stories about war, the look soldiers gave to someone who had just proven they were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. Maya Chen, the weak human, had just served notice to the galaxy that humanity's arrival in the cosmic arena wasn't going to be the joke everyone expected. It was going to be a revolution. Word traveled fast in the academy. By the time Maya returned to Dormitory 7, Flux 779 was waiting for her, its metallic form practically vibrating with excitement. 5 perfect scenarios, the Fluxian gurgled, its voice carrying notes Maya had never heard before. In one evaluation, the Academy network is humming with data streams about you. Maya dropped onto her narrow bed, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline from the evaluation was wearing off, leaving her feeling hollow and strangely vulnerable. I just did what I had to do. No, Flux 79's form solidified as it leaned closer. You did what none of us thought was possible. You made the Academy's evaluation system obsolete. Before Maya could ask what that meant, her door chimed with an incoming message. The holographic display showed an ornate seal, the Academy's symbol surrounded by the emblems of all 12 major species. Candidate Chen, the message began in formal Standard Galactic. You are requested to attend a special assembly tomorrow at 1400 hours. Your presence is mandatory. Signed, High Command. Maya stared at the message. In the Academy's 300-year history, special assemblies were called only for the most extraordinary circumstances. Usually, they announced new threats to galactic security or celebrated unprecedented achievements by graduating students. What do you think they want? She asked Flux 779. The Fluxian surface rippled in what Maya had learned was its equivalent of a shrug to understand what they're dealing with. Your evaluation results have been transmitted to every major world in the Coalition. By now, every species leader knows that a human just broke every assumption they had about combat capability. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the evaluation in her mind, not with satisfaction but with growing concern. She had wanted to prove that humans could contribute to galactic defense, not to revolutionize how the galaxy thought about warfare. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. Maya, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is exceed expectations. It makes people wonder what else they've underestimated. The next morning brought a new reality. Maya's classes had been suspended. Instead, she found herself assigned to a special research program led by Dr. Vexani, a cerebral whose species was renowned for their analytical capabilities. The cerebral looked like a walking brain case supported by 6 delicate limbs, its oversized cranium pulsing with visible neural activity. Fascinating. Doctor, Vexani said as Maya entered the laboratory. The first truly generalized combat specialist we have encountered. Your evaluation data suggests capabilities that should be theoretically impossible for a single organism to possess. The lab was filled with holographic displays showing combat techniques from across the galaxy. Maya recognized moves from her evaluation, but they were broken down into component parts, analyzed from angles she had never considered. Dr. Vexani, what exactly are you trying to understand? Everything, the Cerebral replied, its voice carrying harmonic undertones that suggested deep intellectual excitement. Your species appears to have achieved something that goes against fundamental principles of evolutionary specialization. Every successful combat species in the galaxy has focused on developing one primary advantage to an extreme degree, yet humans seem to have developed multiple advantages to moderate degrees. Maya watched as the holographic display shifted to show comparative analyses between human capabilities and various alien species. And that's significant because it suggests either your species has discovered a fundamentally different approach to combat evolution or, Vexani paused, its neural activity intensifying to the point where the lab's lights dimmed slightly. Or what? Or your species isn't actually specialized for combat at all. You may be specialized for something else entirely, and combat effectiveness is merely a side effect. The implications of that statement hung in the air between them. Maya felt a chill run down her spine as she began to understand what the Cerebral was suggesting. What else could we be specialized for? Survival, Dr. Vexani said simply. Not in the sense of avoiding death, but in the sense of adapting to any situation, any environment, any challenge. Your combat abilities may simply be one expression of a much broader survival specialization. Before Maya could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the academy. Emergency lights bathed the laboratory in red, and Dr. Vexani's cranium flared with urgent neural activity. "Attention all Academy personnel!" Commander Thexla's voice boomed over the intercom system. "We have received a priority alert from Coalition Command. A Devour fleet has been detected in the Outer Rim, moving toward inhabited systems. All advanced students are to report for immediate deployment briefing." Maya's blood ran cold. The Devourers were the galaxy's nightmare, a species of pure aggression that consumed entire worlds, turning their resources into more ships, more weapons, more death. They were the reason the Galactic Combat Academy existed in the first place. "Doctor, what's a Devour fleet?" Dr. Vexani's form trembled slightly. "The greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced. They appear every few centuries, consume everything in their path, then disappear back into the void. The last encounter was over 300 years ago, before the Academy was founded. We've been preparing for their return ever since." Maya and Dr. Vexani joined the stream of personnel rushing toward the grand amphitheater. The massive space was filled with students and instructors from every species, their usual interspecies rivalries forgotten in the face of existential threat. Commander Thexla stood at the center of the amphitheater, his massive form somehow dwarfed by the holographic display hovering above him. It showed a sector of space near the galactic rim, marked with red indicators that pulsed like a heartbeat. 17 hours ago, Commander Thexla's voice carried clearly through the amphitheater. Long-range sensors detected the emergence of a devourer force from hyperspace. Initial scans suggest a moderate fleet, perhaps 50 vessels of various sizes. Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd. 50 Devourer ships was enough to sterilize multiple star systems. Coalition Fleet Command is mobilizing every available vessel, but they will need at least 72 hours to achieve full deployment. The Devourer fleet will reach the Kepler colony in 60 hours. The murmurs stopped. Kepler colony was home to nearly 1 billion civilians representing dozens of species. All Academy students in their final year of training are being deployed immediately to supplement Coalition forces. This is not a drill, this is not an exercise. This is exactly what you have been training for. Maya felt the weight of stares as hundreds of alien eyes turned toward her. She was definitely not a final year student, but after yesterday's evaluation, she was no longer a typical first-year student either. Candidate Chen, Commander Thexla's voice seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Report to Deployment Bay 7. You have been assigned to the Advanced Reconnaissance Mission. The amphitheater erupted in shocked voices. Sending a first-year student on any deployment was unprecedented. Sending one on advanced reconnaissance against Devourers was either brilliant or insane. Maya made her way through the crowd toward Deployment Bay 7, feeling like she was walking through a dream. 24 hours ago, she had been an unknown human trying to prove her species wasn't completely useless in combat. Now she was being deployed against the galaxy's most feared enemy. Deployment Bay 7 housed a sleek reconnaissance vessel designed for stealth and speed. Standing beside it was a mixed team of advanced students, the kind of elite warriors the Academy produced after years of specialized training. There was Kethra, a void dancer whose natural stealth abilities had been honed to near perfection. Zactus, a Zephyrian whose speed made him appear as little more than a blur. Morgeth, a Korthax whose strength-based combat training had turned him into a living weapon. And Lysisara, a Mentari whose psychic abilities could penetrate almost any defense. They all turned as Maya approached, and she saw the same expression on every face, professional respect mixed with deep uncertainty. "So," Kethra said, her voice carrying the barely there whisper of her species, "you're the human who broke the evaluation system." Maya nodded. "I'm Maya Chen. We know who you are," Zactus said, his words coming in rapid bursts as his biology made normal speech difficult. "Question is, what are you? Strength specialist? Speed specialist? Stealth? Strategy?" "I'm a human," Maya replied. "We don't specialize." Morgeth's armor plates clicked in what might have been amusement or skepticism. Against Devourers, not specializing means dying. They are pure combat evolution, strength, speed, aggression, and numbers beyond anything the galaxy has seen. Maya looked at each member of her new team, recognizing the fear beneath their professional competence. The Devourers were legendary for a reason. Every previous encounter with them had ended in massive casualties and barely achieved victories. "What exactly are Devourers?" she asked. "I've heard the stories, but I need to understand what we're actually facing." Lysara stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly as she accessed deep memory files. "They're what happens when a species achieves perfect combat specialization, pure aggression, pure efficiency, pure consumption. They don't communicate, they don't negotiate, they don't retreat. They exist only to consume resources and reproduce." "They sound like a plague," Maya said. "Worse," Kethra whispered. "A plague can be cured. Devourers can only be stopped by force, and they learn from every encounter. Each time they return, they're more dangerous than before." Maya studied the reconnaissance ship, her mind racing. A standard recon mission against Devourers would involve gathering intelligence about their fleet composition, defensive capabilities, and attack patterns. But something about the situation felt wrong to her. "How long has it been since the last Devourer encounter?" she asked. 312 years, Morgeth rumbled. "And how long has the Academy been preparing for their return?" 300 years, Zactus replied quickly. Maya felt pieces clicking together in her mind. So the Academy was founded specifically to prepare for the Devourer's return? Among other purposes, yes, Lysisara confirmed. "And in all that time, what's the Academy's approach been?" The team exchanged glances. Finally, Kethra answered. "Perfect each species' combat specialization. Make every student the ultimate expression of their species' natural advantages." Comment, Maya nodded slowly. "So when the Devourers return, they'll face exactly what they faced before, just more refined versions of the same combat specialists they've already learned to fight." The silence that followed was profound. "You think the Academy's approach is wrong?" Morgeth asked, his voice carrying dangerous undertones. "I think the Academy's approach is predictable," Maya replied. And if there's one thing I learned from studying human military history, it's that predictable approaches against adaptive enemies lead to disaster. She looked at each of them again, seeing not just elite warriors but potential allies in a new kind of warfare. The Devourers are expecting to fight the same species they fought before, using the same tactics with the same strengths and weaknesses. They've had 3 centuries to plan for exactly that kind of encounter. And what are you suggesting? Lysera asked, her psychic abilities probably picking up the intensity of Maya's thoughts. Maya smiled, and for the first time since arriving at the academy, it felt completely natural. I'm suggesting we give them something they've never encountered before. Not perfect specialists fighting in their predetermined roles, but adaptable warriors who can become whatever the situation requires. She looked at the reconnaissance ship, then back at her team. I'm suggesting we fight like humans. The reconnaissance ship Silent Dawn cut through hyperspace toward the edge of known space, carrying Maya and her team toward their first encounter with the galaxy's most feared enemy. The journey would take 18 hours, giving them time to prepare for what might be the most important mission in galactic history. Maya floated in the ship's central planning chamber, studying holographic displays that showed everything the Coalition knew about Devourer tactics. It wasn't much. 3 previous encounters spread across millennia, each one barely documented by the survivors who managed to escape. They hit hard and fast, Kethra said, her whisper voice carrying through the chamber's comm system. Pure aggression, no subtlety. Every ship commits fully to attack. No retreat, no regrouping, Zactus added, his rapid speech pattern making the words blur together. Fight until victory or total destruction. Maya nodded, absorbing the information. But something bothered her about the pattern. Has anyone ever tried to study their behavior between attacks? What they do when they're not actively fighting? Morgoth's armor plates clicked skeptically. There is nothing to study. They consume resources, build more ships, then disappear into the void. Pure efficiency. But where do they go? What do they do during the centuries between encounters? Lysara's eyes glowed as she accessed deeper memory files. Unknown. Long-range sensors lose track of them. They seem to simply vanish. Maya stared at the tactical displays, her mind working through possibilities that her teammates' specialized training might not have prepared them to consider. Human military history was full of enemies who seemed unstoppable until someone figured out their underlying pattern. What if they're not disappearing, she said slowly. What if they're doing something else entirely? Such as, Kethra whispered. Maya called up a star chart showing the locations of previous Devourer encounters. They formed a rough pattern across the galaxy's edge, but not a random one. There was logic to their positioning, a strategic element that pure aggression couldn't explain. What if they're not just consuming resources for reproduction? What if they're studying us? The silence that followed was profound. Studying us? Morgoth's voice carried dangerous undertones. For what purpose? To learn how we fight, to adapt their tactics based on what they've observed. Maya enhanced the star chart, showing the progression of Devourer encounters across time. Look at this pattern. Each encounter happens in a different sector, against different combinations of species. They're not just attacking randomly, they're systematically exposing themselves to every type of combat capability the galaxy possesses. Zactus's form blurred slightly as his metabolic rate increased. That would mean they're not mindless aggressors. They're intelligent strategists. More than that, Maya continued, pieces falling into place in her mind, it would mean they've been preparing for centuries to face every combat specialization the galaxy can field. When they return for their final assault, they'll know exactly how to counter every advantage we think we have. Lysera's psychic abilities flared, filling the chamber with a subtle pressure. If you're correct, then everything the Academy has taught, Every strategy the coalition has prepared is exactly what they want us to do, Maya finished. They've seen Korthak's strength in action. They know how Zephyrians fight. They've encountered Mentari psychic warfare and Void Dancer stealth. They've studied every species' combat patterns for generations. The implications hit the team like a physical blow. Their entire approach to the coming battle might be playing directly into enemy hands. But they haven't encountered humans, Kethra whispered, understanding dawning in her voice. No, Maya agreed. Humans weren't part of the galactic community during previous encounters. We're the one variable they haven't been able to study and plan for. She called up her evaluation results, displaying them alongside the Devourer encounter data. What if that's exactly what we need? Not perfect specialists doing what they do best, but adaptable fighters doing what the enemy doesn't expect. Morgoth studied the displays with new intensity. You're suggesting we abandon our specializations? Fight outside our natural advantages? I'm suggesting we expand beyond them, Maya corrected. Use your strength when it's unexpected, not when it's obvious. Use speed for strategy instead of just velocity. Use stealth for misdirection instead of just hiding. She looked at each of them, seeing the conflict between their ingrained training and the logical implications of her theory. Humans have one advantage that no other species in the galaxy possesses. She continued, we're not locked into a single combat approach. We can be whatever the situation requires. And you think you can teach us this? Lysizara asked, her psychic probe gentle but persistent. Maya met her gaze steadily. I think we can teach each other. You know your specializations better than I ever could, but I know how to think outside them. Together, we might be able to become something the Devourers have never planned for. The next few hours became an intensive crash course in adaptive combat theory. Maya shared everything she had learned about human military philosophy, the concept of combined arms tactics, the importance of unpredictability, the power of doing what your enemy least expects. In return, her teammates taught her the deeper principles behind their specializations. Kethra showed her how Void Dancer stealth worked not just through physical concealment, but through manipulating the observer's expectations. Zaktus demonstrated that Zephyrian speed wasn't just about moving fast, but about thinking and reacting faster than opponents could adapt. Morgoth revealed that Korthak's strength training included subtle elements of leverage and timing that could multiply force far beyond simple muscle power. Lysizara shared how Mentari's psychic abilities could be used for more than direct mental attacks. They could create confusion, false impressions, and strategic misdirection. This is fascinating, Dr. Vexani's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. The Cerebral had insisted on monitoring their mission remotely, claiming it was the most important research opportunity in galactic history. You're not just combining combat techniques. You're creating entirely new tactical paradigms. Maya paused in her demonstration of human psychological warfare principles. Doctor, what do you mean? Each species developed their combat specialization in isolation, fighting only threats from their own worlds. You're teaching them to think like a species that had to fight everything simultaneously. The ship's navigation system chimed, indicating they were approaching their target coordinates. Maya felt her stomach tighten as the reality of their situation hit home. In a few hours, they would come face to face with an enemy that had spent centuries preparing to fight every tactic the galaxy could field. Except one. Silent Dawn dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. The ship's AI announced. Stealth systems engaging. All personnel prepare for reconnaissance operations. Maya strapped herself into the observation station as space twisted around them. One moment they were in the dimensional fold of hyperspace, the next they were drifting in the dark between stars, their ship's advanced stealth systems making them nearly invisible, and there, spread across the void like a plague of metal and death, was the Devourer fleet. Mother of stars, Kethra whispered, her natural composure shaken by what they were seeing. The Devourers had changed since the last encounter 3 centuries ago. Their ships were larger, more sophisticated, clearly incorporating technology learned from previous battles. Maya counted at least 80 vessels instead of the 50 intelligence had estimated, and many of them showed design elements that seemed adapted specifically to counter known galactic combat techniques. They're not just learning from encounters, Zaktus observed, his rapid speech even faster than usual. They're innovating, improving, evolving their technology based on what they've observed. Morgeth's armor plates were completely still, a sign of intense concentration among his species. Those hull modifications on the larger ships, they're designed to disperse energy weapons. Mentari psychic attacks would be less effective. And look at the formation, Lysara added, her eyes glowing as she analyzed the fleet's positioning. It's designed to counter every standard coalition battle doctrine simultaneously. Maya studied the enemy formation with growing realization. This wasn't just a fleet, it was a carefully designed counter-strategy to everything the galaxy had spent centuries preparing. They know we're coming, she said quietly. Not us specifically, but they know the coalition will respond with standard tactics. They've positioned themselves to turn our own specializations against us. So what do we do? Kethra asked. Maya looked at her teammates, 4 of the most elite warriors the Academy had produced, each perfect examples of their species' combat capabilities. Then she looked back at the Devourer fleet spread across space like a web designed to catch exactly the kind of prey the galaxy would send against them. We do what they're not prepared for, she said, her voice gaining strength as the plan took shape in her mind. We don't just gather intelligence and retreat. We engage them. Engage them? Morgeth's voice carried clear alarm. A reconnaissance ship against an entire fleet? That's suicide. Not if we engage them like humans, Maya replied. She began calling up tactical displays, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she outlined an approach that violated every conventional wisdom about space combat. Humans don't fight fair, she explained as the plan took shape. We don't engage enemies at their strengths. We don't follow predictable patterns. We improvise, we adapt, and we use everything around us as a weapon. She highlighted sections of the Devourer fleet formation. They're prepared for direct assault, coordinated fleet actions, and specialized attacks. They're not prepared for a single ship that refuses to behave like anything they've studied. What exactly are you proposing? Lysara asked, her psychic abilities picking up the intensity of Maya's determination. Maya smiled, and her teammates recognized the expression from her academy evaluation, the look of someone who was about to do something impossible. I'm proposing we teach the Devourers what it means to fight humanity, starting with the most important lesson of all, which is, humans don't just adapt to survive, Maya said, her hands moving to the ship's control systems. We adapt to win, and we're about to show them what that looks like. The Silent Dawn began to move through space, not retreating to carry intelligence back to the Coalition fleet, but advancing toward the Devourer formation with a pattern of movement unlike anything in galactic military doctrine. Maya Chen, the weak girl from Earth, was about to introduce the galaxy's most feared enemy to the concept of human warfare. And the Devourers were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who refuses to fight by any rules you understand. The Silent Dawn approached the Devourer fleet like a ghost ship, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the cosmic background. Maya's hands moved across the control systems with steady precision, implementing a battle plan that defied every principle of space combat her teammates had ever learned. Maya, Morgeth rumbled, his voice tight with concern. The fleet formation is designed to channel attackers into killing zones. If we maintain this approach vector, we'll trigger their defensive response. Good, Maya replied, her voice calm as she adjusted their trajectory slightly. That's exactly what I want them to do. Zactus's form blurred with nervous energy. Triggering defensive response means drawing fire from entire fleet. Ship not survive concentrated bombardment. Not if we don't let them concentrate their fire, Maya said. She called up a three-dimensional tactical display showing the Devourer fleet's positioning. Look at their formation. It's perfect for dealing with conventional attacks, multiple overlapping fields of fire, mutual support between vessels, coordinated response protocols. Yes, Lysara agreed, her psychic abilities picking up growing alarm from the ship's other occupants, which is why approaching them is insane. Maya highlighted specific points in the enemy formation. But look closer. Their formation is so optimized for fighting conventional opponents that it has critical weaknesses against unconventional ones. She traced flight paths through the display, showing how the Devourer's own positioning created blind spots and interference zones. They're prepared for enemies who attack in predictable patterns, direct assault, flanking maneuvers, coordinated strikes. They're not prepared for an enemy who attacks from inside their formation. Kethra's whisper voice carried new understanding. You want to infiltrate their fleet. More than that, Maya said, her plan becoming clearer as she spoke. I want to turn their fleet into a weapon against itself. Before her teammates could object, the Devourer sensors found them. Warning lights flashed across the Silent Dawn's bridge as enemy targeting systems locked onto their position. Contact, the ship's AI announced. Multiple enemy vessels converging on our position. Recommend immediate evasive action. Maya's hands moved across the controls, but instead of pulling away from the enemy fleet, she drove deeper into it. The Silent Dawn twisted through space in a pattern that violated every principle of fighter pilot training. Erratic, unpredictable, seemingly random. What are you doing? Morgeth demanded as enemy fire began to fill the space around them. Something they've never seen before, Maya replied, guiding the ship through a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible for a less agile vessel. Humans call it furball tactics. Instead of trying to avoid chaos, we embrace it. Energy blasts from Devourer weapons carved through the space where the Silent Dawn had been moments before. But Maya kept the ship moving in patterns that made targeting impossible. More importantly, she was leading the pursuing Devourer vessels deeper into their own formation. Incoming fire from multiple vectors, the AI warned. Recommend immediate retreat. Instead, Maya dove toward the largest concentration of enemy ships, threading the needle between massive vessels whose own weapons could no longer fire without hitting their allies. Now I see it, Kethra whispered, her tactical training finally catching up with Maya's strategy. You're using their formation discipline against them. They can't fire effectively without risking friendly casualties. Exactly, Maya said, pulling the ship through a tight spiral that brought them alongside one of the larger Devourer vessels. Every military doctrine in the galaxy emphasizes formation integrity and coordinated fire. The Devourers have optimized their tactics around those principles. She triggered the ship's weapon systems, but instead of trying to damage the enemy vessel, she aimed for specific points along its hull, sensor arrays, communication equipment, maneuvering thrusters. But humans learned a long time ago that sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make sure the other side can't coordinate their response. The larger Devourer ship, suddenly blind and partially disabled, began to drift out of formation. Its neighbors moved to compensate, opening gaps in their defensive screen that Maya immediately exploited. This is incredible, Dr. Vexani's voice crackled through the comm system. You're not fighting the fleet, you're fighting their tactical doctrine. Maya grinned as she guided the Silent Dawn through another series of impossibly tight maneuvers. Humans have been fighting organized opponents for thousands of years. We learn that the more organized an enemy is, the more vulnerable they are to having that organization disrupted. She began implementing the next phase of her plan using the ship's advanced sensor suite to map the communication links between Devourer vessels. Zakduz, I need you to help me identify priority targets, communication relays, command vessels, coordination centers. The Zephyrian's enhanced reflexes allowed him to process targeting data at superhuman speeds. Command vessel there, he said, highlighting a massive ship at the formation center. Multiple communication nodes throughout fleet. Destroying them would create coordination breakdown. Lysara, Maya continued, can your psychic abilities interfere with their communication systems? Create false signals, garbled messages, anything to add to the confusion. The Mentari's eyes flared with understanding. I can project psychic interference across multiple frequency bands. Their coordination will become increasingly difficult. Kethra, use your stealth expertise to help us approach targets without being detected until the last moment. Morgeth, when we need to disable something quickly and permanently, I'll need your tactical knowledge of weak points and vulnerabilities. As her teammates fell into their roles, Maya felt a surge of satisfaction that had nothing to do with combat effectiveness and everything to do with something uniquely human, the ability to turn a group of specialists into a truly adaptive team. The next hour became a masterclass in unconventional warfare. Instead of fighting the Devourer fleet, Maya and her team systematically dismantled its ability to function as a coordinated force. They disabled communication relays, confused command structures, and created cascading failures throughout the enemy formation. The Devourers, optimized for fighting predictable opponents, found themselves unable to adapt to tactics that seemed to change moment by moment. Their perfect formation began to crumble as individual ships lost contact with their commanders and began operating independently. Fleet coordination dropping to 60%, Zakduz reported, his rapid analysis of enemy communications providing real-time assessment. Multiple command failures. Growing confusion in response patterns. Maya guided the Silent Dawn toward the formation's center where the largest Devourer vessels were beginning to cluster in defensive groups. Perfect. Now comes the really interesting part. What's the really interesting part? Morgeth asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Maya called up a tactical display showing the positions of the Coalition fleet, still hours away from the battle zone. The really interesting part is, when we prove that humans don't just fight differently, we think about victory differently. She began broadcasting on all frequencies, sending a complex series of coded signals toward Coalition space. To the Devourers, it would look like standard distress calls and tactical reports. But embedded within the signals was something else entirely. Complete tactical analysis of Devourer capabilities, she explained as the data stream flowed from their ship. Detailed breakdown of their formation weaknesses, communication protocols, command structure vulnerabilities, and, most importantly, she highlighted sections of the analysis that showed how the Devourers had adapted their technology to counter every known galactic combat doctrine. Proof that they've been studying us for centuries, preparing counters to every conventional tactic we might use. Lysara's psychic abilities picked up the implications immediately. You're not just gathering intelligence. You're completely changing how the Coalition will approach the battle. When the main fleet arrives, Maya continued, they won't try to fight the Devourers using standard tactics. They'll know those tactics are exactly what the enemy is prepared for. Instead, they'll implement human-style adaptive warfare. Kethra's whisper voice carried new respect. You're teaching the entire Coalition fleet to fight like humans. More than that, Maya said, as the Silent Dawn began its extraction from the now confused Devourer formation. I'm teaching them to think like humans. To see adaptability not as a backup plan when specialization fails, but as a primary strategy that makes specialization irrelevant. The ship's sensors detected new activity throughout the Devourer fleet. The enemy was trying to reorganize, to restore their formation discipline, but the damage Maya's team had inflicted went beyond mere tactical disruption. "They're confused," Morgeth observed, his tactical analysis showing enemy vessels moving in increasingly erratic patterns. Their entire operational doctrine was based on fighting predictable opponents. "They don't know how to respond to chaos." And that, Maya said, guiding the ship toward the edge of the battle zone, is humanity's greatest gift to galactic warfare. We don't just bring new tactics or better technology. We bring a completely different way of thinking about conflict. As the silent dawn cleared the Devourer fleet's sensor range and prepared to rendezvous with the Coalition forces, Maya felt a profound sense of completion. She had come to the Academy to prove that humans could contribute to galactic defense. Instead, she had proved something far more significant. "Dr. Will?" "Vexani," she said into the comm system. "I think I understand now what you meant about humans being specialized for survival." "Elaborate, please." The Cerebral's voice carried intense intellectual curiosity. "Every other species specialized for specific environments, specific threats, specific ways of existence. Humans specialized for adaptation itself. We became good at everything because we never knew what we'd need to be good at next." She looked at her teammates, each of whom had begun to understand how their own specializations could be expanded beyond their original limitations. The Devourers spent centuries preparing to fight the galaxy's specialists. They optimized their entire civilization to counter known combat doctrines, but they never encountered a species that refused to be predictable. The ship sensors began detecting the approaching Coalition fleet, hundreds of vessels representing every major species in the galaxy, all converging on what everyone expected to be the most important battle in galactic history. But Maya knew it wouldn't be a battle at all. It would be a demonstration. The Coalition fleet would arrive to find the Devourer formation in chaos, their coordination shattered, their tactical advantages neutralized by an approach to warfare they had never imagined possible. "Maya," Kethra whispered, her voice carrying something that might have been awe, "what you've done here, it changes everything." Maya nodded, watching as the first Coalition vessels appeared on their sensors. "That's what humans do, Kethra. We change everything, not because we're stronger or faster or smarter than anyone else, but because we refuse to accept that everything can't be changed." She opened a communication channel to the approaching fleet, preparing to transmit not just intelligence about enemy capabilities, but a complete paradigm shift in how the galaxy thought about warfare. "Coalition Command, this is Reconnaissance Team Alpha reporting. We have completed our mission and are prepared to share findings. Be advised, everything you think you know about fighting Devourers is about to change." As the Coalition fleet moved into position for what they expected to be a desperate battle against impossible odds, Maya Chen smiled. The weak girl from Earth was about to teach the galaxy that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from perfecting what you do best, but from refusing to be limited by what you think you can't do. The age of specialized warfare was ending. The age of human adaptability was about to begin. And the Devourers, for all their centuries of preparation, were about to learn what it meant to face an enemy that specialized in being unpredictable. The battle that followed would be remembered not as humanity's first great victory in galactic warfare, but as the moment when the galaxy learned to fight like humans. And Maya Chen, the girl who had been dismissed as too weak to matter, would be remembered as the warrior who taught the universe that adaptation was the ultimate specialization. In the end, the greatest weapon wasn't strength or speed or stealth or strategy. It was the ability to be whatever the situation required whenever it was needed. It was the ability to be human.